writing a book in 10 minutes a day, every day, until I reached the end of a draft. This was a challenge I gave myself a little while ago on TikTok. I was trying to create content consistently over there for a while, and I was just having a really hard time. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if short form is really my game. I think I'm a little too long-winded, honestly, but I was kind of low on ideas, and at the same time, I had taken a really, really long break from writing fiction, which is like my true love. I would love to be a published author one day, and I wanted a way to get back into it that was low pressure, because at the time I was doing all the starting stuff for starting my little book covers business. I had just finished a draft of a book that I actually do want to publish later on. I was making and editing YouTube videos. I was doing a lot, and I wanted something that was writing, that was fun, that didn't feel serious at all. And so I came up with the idea of writing for just 10 minutes a day on a manuscript that really is just for fun, like something that I don't plan to publish. And then at the end of each day, I would post up what I'd written at the end of the TikTok in case anybody wanted to read it. And that became a really fun way to like work on writing daily. The story I was working on was originally an idea I had in college, which it's potentially one of the most unhinged story ideas I've ever had in my entire life. And I will explain, because I think the context is important. 'Twas my freshman year. I was locked in a very old dorm building because we had been flooded in. All of my hallmates were having a scary movie marathon. It's not for me, is it? No. In between the horror of watching multiple scary movies, I started to write a book about the zombie apocalypse that was also a high school romance. It's very nerd and athlete get stuck together, running from the zombies for their lives, and they kind of have to figure out how the zombies came about, how they're gonna try and beat them, that type of thing. It's really fun. It's very sci-fi. It is so unserious. And I did that for like a while, a couple months, and then we got to the end of the year. And one thing about me is I always try to take the last week of the year off, especially after this past year, because I had done a really, really long work sprint where I was barely sleeping. I was constantly at this computer. It was totally worth it, but to give you an idea of how dire things were at that time, the day before I was gonna take my break, I was so tired that I went and sat in a massage chair, and when I stood up, within like 5 minutes, I was dizzy, lightheaded, throwing up, just because I think the amount of knots in my back, it was really bad. Like, I'm never doing that to myself again. I felt so ill. But then the new year rolled around. I was recovering from being actually sick, and I was so burned out. Like, it was insane. And my main thing with content is obviously here. I love making YouTube videos. TikToks I had fun with, but it just, it wasn't exactly the same for me. And so I fell off the train with that. But then I feel like I'm just telling like a story that's going all over the place. I'm so sorry. But then, TikTok ban might be happening. And I was like, oh my gosh, all this content that I made, like I really did make a lot of TikToks and I didn't want to lose them. And so I decided to just re-upload everything here to YouTube. And as those writing 10-minute a day shorts came back out, I started to miss the story, and there were several people who really liked the idea of the 10-minute writing in a day thing. Simultaneously, I started editing that manuscript that I was talking about that I actually do want to publish. And, I understand why some people like editing. I get that is some people's jam. They hate writing a first draft, and they're like, the story is in the editing. That's what I love. Not me. I love making my way through a first draft and then leaving it. It's horrible. I think it's partially a habit left over from my ghostwriting days where I didn't have to edit what I wrote. I was writing 80 to 100,000 words every 26 days as part of this ghostwriting gig. It's a lot of writing. There's no time to edit, and that wasn't part of my job. And so I would just write these like fun first draft manuscripts. I would do my best to clean them. They weren't in horrible condition when they were handed off to the editor, but they weren't, carefully selected through to find all the tiny little things, and I definitely didn't have time to fix the plot. That was a situation where we went with the first idea and just ran with it, and that was it. But now this is my baby, and so I really want to go and edit and make sure it's the best it can possibly be, but man, I don't like editing. It's so much harder. And so between like kind of a renewed interest in the 10-minute story and then also my normal writing taking a turn for the more intense and just cerebral, I wanted that fun bit of writing back in my life, and so we are restarting the project. It has been 6 months since I've touched this story. That is insane. I am about 26,000 words in so far, which isn't too shabby considering the fact that I only did 10 minutes a day. I feel like that really shows the power power of how much you can get done in 10 minutes when you really sit and think about it. But I do feel like the writing sprint muscles are a little rusty. So I'm interested to see how much we can get through. My plan for this video is to go ahead and do the first writing sprint today. And then we'll write 10 minutes a day every day for the next 7 days. And then I'll record a little part 2 of this video as an update to see how it's going and hopefully broken the 30K mark or we're close. If you're a writer and you want to do this challenge with me, I would love to hear about your stories in the comments. The whole idea of this is the absolute least amount of pressure as an overall lifestyle because everyone's so busy, but it's also like a 10 minutes of high pressure, if that makes sense, to get the work done and to just get the ideas on the page. And my whole entire like slogan for this thing was, it does not have to be good, it just has to be fun. And I feel like that is how you write faster. It's like not going back and doing this mental editing or rereading, like you're just writing without your hands stopping, and that's how you get the words on the page. Because for a lot of people that first draft is really the hard part because they're so in their heads trying to like plan out the sentences before they're on the page. And this, I feel, is how I kind of like obliterated that. It's just like letting yourself write the bad like garbage draft and not caring about that. Other than like the situation I was talking about with the ghostwriting thing where I did sort of plot it a little bit ahead of time in a way that would really keep me on track. Unless you're in that situation, I really believe that the first draft is for the writer. It's not for the reader at all. It's just to get the story and the ideas and the characters on the page so that you do have something to work with when you go through the grueling editing process. And so that's the whole goal of this here. That's why if you do want to take this challenge, I would really, really encourage you to just use a plain Google document, Microsoft Word document. I really like Scrivener and I love the structure that it provides, but I don't think it lends itself well to a challenge like this because you have all of the setup and you have your notes and all this stuff. And the goal is to not need that for this. At most, like maybe a 1-page bullet point script of where you want to go with the story if you already know. I am kind of pantsing this one. I know I wrote it a long time ago, so I have an idea of where I want to get to. So like I have point A, point B, but like nothing here. I forgot most of what I wrote because I was a freshman in college and that was 10 years ago. But anyway, that's the plan. So let's go ahead and do the first writing sprint. I'm going to just do little clips of the next couple days. You don't need to sit here for 10 minutes and watch me type. And hopefully future me has some good news that we broke the 30K mark on the word count. But I guess we'll see. So it's been 2 weeks since recording that because the idea of doing this challenge magically disappeared after 48 hours. After recording, I went ahead and I did the 10 minutes for Friday and I did the 10 minutes for Saturday. And then after that, just poof. But if it's not in the Google Calendar, it does not happen. It's not stored in my brain. And I didn't put writing sprints in my calendar. They're in there now so that I don't forget. So I did that Friday and Saturday and then essentially took a week off. And then came back the following week, though I think I missed Sunday. Honestly, the hardest part of this challenge was remembering to do it. And that's because it's a habit, right? It has to be hooked onto something else. It's the easiest way to form habits. And as of right now, I haven't officially like hooked it onto anything else. It probably should be like for my morning meetings, but that has not happened yet. And so I've been doing this challenge as what I call a buzzer beater. I'm doing my 10 minutes like at 11:30 at night, right before the day is up. And that's not a habit I would like to continue. So I probably need to hook it onto something like my morning meetings or something like that. Get it done before the workday happens. So I'm gonna try and do that next week instead of just trying to have it on my calendar at the end of the day between those 6 days of writing for 10 minutes a piece. So that's 1 hour of writing. I added 3,000 words to the document, which when you think about it that way, pretty quick. That's, at least for me, 3,000 words in an hour is pretty stellar. 2,000 is a pretty standard fast pace for me. Like when I was doing ghostwriting for mystery novels, that was my normal pace, and that was me writing very quickly and having that speed writing muscle built up over the course of several months. Because writing like that, it really is a muscle. It's like something you have to exercise, and you have to get used to putting yourself into that headspace really quickly. And I struggled with that a little bit. I feel like it's sort of like riding a bike. Once you're like kind of used to speed riding, it's easier to get back into it. Though I'm not gonna lie, it did feel a little bit like pulling teeth a couple of the days. And it's just because it's been a really long time since I've written fiction like that. And so I plan to keep going, and I feel like I can make a good guess that it's gonna get easier, because the first time I did this challenge, and I did it for a couple months, it was after probably like the second or third week when it started to become really fun and like easier, because I was sort of back in that flow. However, because it is only 10 minutes a day, it's not like I was taking big chunks of my day to write. And in my opinion, that's the purpose of this whole thing, is if you're busy or working on other projects, this is a really good way to get words on the page, even if it is kind of trash. When I was writing this week, I was like, this is not good. There were moments where I was like, this is, good writing, or at least writing that I can work with later on if I really do decide to edit this thing. But most of it is garbage. So and in my opinion, especially for a project like this, that's fine, because you sort of have to get that out of you before you can start writing even good lines, good sentences, and just kind of get used to tapping into the fiction muscle again. Because I feel like once you've kind of gotten to that point, then that's when writing fiction feels more fun, and it also feels a little more fulfilling, because it's easier for you to kind of explain things the way you want to. Because if you've ever gone down to write and you know what you want to say and you know what message you want to give and stuff like that, but you're having like the hardest time finding the words, and every time you write something you're like, this is the most bland sentence ever, it's, in my opinion, because that muscle's like not warmed up. So this week was rough, the roughest warm-up ever. Like working out for the first time in months felt very rusty, but I do anticipate it getting easier. And I did want to emphasize that the first week of doing this is hard, because if you want to try this, first of all, let me know. Second of all, the first week or two is gonna suck. I don't want to like sugarcoat it for you. It's not like the most fun to form a new habit, even if it is only taking 10 minutes of your day. And sometimes it is late at night when you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this. And you kind of have to make the decision to go and do the thing at a time you really don't want to do it. But if we think about the math, skipping a day, we got 3,000 words, which is pretty on track. A normal writing sprint for me is about 500 words, so should be around 3,500 a week. But let's round down to 3,000 for off days. 60,000 words would take 20 weeks, and 90,000 words would take 30 weeks. I think that's right. That's still like 6 to 7 months to turn out a draft without taking a significant amount of time out of my day ever for that entire 6 months. So that's my goal, to continue with this, get to the end of a draft. I still don't plan to actually try and publish this, but I might put it up online somewhere for kicks and giggles, because I'm at the point of the story where it is about to get just like comically unhinged. I feel like if this was a movie, it would be like one of those funny horror movies, which is just crazy because I hate horror. But what can I say? Overall, this has been a very effective way of writing for me in the past, so I'm excited to go ahead and finish out this story with it. And if you decide to do this, whether for your own fun writing project or a more serious manuscript, I would love to hear about it, and whether it works for you, whether the habit sort of sticks. Let me know the vibes. Please like this video if you liked it, click subscribe if you want to talk about more book stuff and or writing stuff, because I'll probably make a follow-up to this at some point. My name's Katelyn, thanks for watching. Bye.